The ballroom sparkled like a jewelry box. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling like frozen stars. Women wore dresses that cost more than cars. Men wore suits so perfect they looked like they were painted on. Everyone smiled. Everyone laughed. Everyone pretended to care about helping talented young artists from all backgrounds. But nobody expected her. The huge wooden doors burst open with a bang that made champagne glasses shake. A young black woman walked in. Her clothes were wrinkled and dirty. Her shoes had holes in them. Her hair needed washing. But her eyes burned like fire. In her arms, she carried a baby. The room went silent. It was the kind of silence that feels like someone just died. 200 rich people stared at this woman like she was a ghost. "Security," someone whispered. The woman didn't stop walking. She walked down the red carpet between the tables. Her shoes made soft squeaking sounds. The baby in her arms looked around with big, curious eyes. He didn't cry. He didn't fuss. He just watched everything like he understood something the grown-ups didn't. "Ma'am, you need to leave now," said a security guard, rushing toward her. His face was red. His hand reached for her arm. "Don't touch me," the woman said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a knife. "I just need 3 minutes. This is a private event." A blonde woman stood up from the front table. Her name was Victoria Caldwell. She wore a dress that probably cost $10,000. Diamonds hung from her neck and ears. "You can't just walk in here. This is inappropriate." Someone called the police. Other people started talking too. How did she get past security? Is that baby even clean? This is embarrassing. I'm calling my lawyer. The young woman kept walking. She walked right up to the stage where an old man with white hair stood. His name was Maestro Richardson. He was supposed to be in charge of the music tonight. His mouth hung open like a broken door. "I need 3 minutes," the woman said again. 3 minutes to sing. Richardson laughed. It was a mean laugh. "You must be joking. This is the Metropolitan Cultural Center's annual gala. We have professional performers. You have liars," the woman interrupted. Her voice stayed calm, but her words hit hard. "You have people who talk about diversity and inclusion while they destroy anyone who actually brings it." Victoria Caldwell's face turned white as paper. The woman turned to face the audience. The baby in her arms made a small, cooing sound. She bounced him gently, and he smiled. "My name is Kesha Hayes," she said, "and I just need someone to hold my baby for 3 minutes while I sing." Nobody moved. It was like the whole room turned to stone. Kesha walked to the nearest table. She stopped in front of a woman, wearing pearls and too much makeup. The woman looked at Kesha like she was looking at a bug. "Here," Kesha said, holding out her son. "His name is Tyler. He won't cry. He's a good baby." I can't, I don't." The woman's hands fluttered like scared birds. "I'm wearing Chanel." "It's just a baby," Kesha said. "Not poison." The woman looked around for help, but nobody wanted to help. They all looked away. They suddenly found their phones very interesting, or their drinks, or the paintings on the walls. Finally, the woman took the baby. She held him like he might explode. Tyler looked up at her and giggled. Despite everything, despite the fear in the woman's eyes, the baby laughed like this was the funniest thing in the world. Kesha turned back to the stage. "Security, remove her," Victoria Caldwell screeched. Her voice was so high it hurt people's ears. "Remove her right now." 2 security guards grabbed Kesha's arms. "Wait!" Everyone turned. An older black man stood up from a table in the back. He wore an expensive suit and glasses. His name was Jonathan Mitchell. He was famous, a music critic whose words could make or break careers. "Let her sing," Jonathan said. He walked forward slowly. His eyes were locked on Kesha's face. "I know who she is." "You know her?" Victoria gasped. "Jonathan, this woman is clearly disturbed. She's homeless. She's brilliant," Jonathan said quietly. His words dropped into the silence like stones into water. Kesha Hayes, full scholarship to Berkeley, graduated top of her class, master's degree in music education. I heard her perform 3 years ago at the conservatory showcase. I've never forgotten it. He turned to look at Richardson, then at Victoria, then at all the rich people in their expensive clothes. You people talk about finding talent. You talk about diversity. But when real talent shows up, talent that doesn't look like you or talk like you or come from your neighborhood, you call security. His voice got louder. Give her 3 minutes. If you really believe what you say about art and music and inclusion, give her 3 minutes. What are you afraid of? The room buzzed with whispers. People shifted in their seats. Some looked embarrassed. Others looked angry. Victoria Caldwell's face turned from white to red. Richardson cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable, like his fancy suit was suddenly too tight. "Fine," he said. His voice sounded like he was chewing glass. 3 minutes. But if this is some kind of joke... "It's not a joke," Kesha said. She walked up the steps to the stage. Her dirty shoes left small marks on the perfect wood. She stood in front of the microphone, under the bright lights. Everyone could see how thin she was, how tired, how much pain lived in her eyes. But they could also see something else. She wasn't afraid. Kesha adjusted the microphone. The room was so quiet you could hear hearts beating. "Before I sing," she said, "I want you to know something. 2 years ago, I taught at Westfield Conservatory. I love my job. I love my students. I thought music could change the world." She paused. Her hands gripped the microphone stand. "But some of you," her eyes found Victoria Caldwell in the crowd. "Some of you didn't like how I taught. You didn't like that I showed students there's more to music than dead white men. You didn't like that I taught jazz and blues and gospel alongside Bach and Mozart. You didn't like that the kids love me." Victoria stood up. This is slander. I'll sue you." "Sue me?" Kesha laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "What will you take?" "I lost everything already. My job, my apartment, my dignity. I've been sleeping in my car with my son for 8 months. Gasps filled the room. "You got me fired," Kesha said, still looking at Victoria. "You and parents like you. You said I was unprofessional. You said I was lowering standards. But we all know the truth. You just didn't want a black woman teaching your children." "Lies!" Victoria shrieked. "Then let me sing," Kesha said softly. "If I'm such a terrible teacher, such an untalented fraud, let me sing. 3 minutes. That's all I ask." She closed her eyes. The piano player, an old man who'd been silent this whole time, suddenly played a single note. It hung in the air like a question. And then Kesha opened her mouth. But before Kesha could sing her first word, the memories crashed over her like ocean waves. 2 years earlier. Miss Hayes. Play it again." The music room at Westfield Conservatory was full of sunlight and laughter. 15 children sat in a circle, their eyes shining with excitement. Kesha sat at the piano, her fingers dancing across the keys. She was playing a jazz version of a classical piece. She mixed Mozart with blues. She added a gospel rhythm to Beethoven. The kids clapped and swayed. "See," Kesha said, smiling so big it hurt her cheeks. "Music is like cooking. You can take old recipes and add new flavors. You can respect the past while creating something new." A little girl with red hair raised her hand. "My mom says jazz isn't real music." Kesha's smile didn't fade, but something changed in her eyes. "What do you think, Emma?" Emma thought hard. "I think it's beautiful. It makes me want to dance." "Then that's real music," Kesha said gently. "Music that makes you feel something, joy, sadness, excitement, that's always real." The children grinned. They loved Miss Hayes. She made music fun. She made them feel like they could create, not just copy. She taught them songs their parents never heard, songs from different countries, different cultures, different kind of people. But outside the music room, in the fancy hallway with paintings of old white men on the walls, trouble was growing. "This is unacceptable." Victoria Caldwell stood in the principal's office. Her face was red. Her hands were shaking. Behind her stood 5 other parents. They all looked angry. Principal Davis, a tired man with gray hair, sighed. Mrs. Caldwell, Miss Hayes is an excellent teacher. Her students have improved significantly. She's teaching them jazz. Victoria spat the word like it was poison. This is a classical conservatory. We pay $40,000 a year for our children to learn proper music. Not that street noise. Another parent, a man in an expensive suit, nodded. My son came home singing something called the blues. The blues? He should be learning Chopin. He is learning Chopin, Principal Davis said. Miss Hayes teaches both. She expands their understanding. She's filling their heads with inappropriate ideas, Victoria interrupted. Her voice dropped lower, meaner. And let's be honest, is she really the right fit for Westfield? The room got quiet. Everyone knew what she meant. Everyone knew the real reason they wanted Kesha gone. Principal Davis looked down at his desk. His hands made fists. He was a good man. He knew this was wrong. But he also knew these parents donated millions of dollars to the school. He knew they could destroy his career with one phone call. I'll think about it, he said quietly. Victoria smiled. It was a smile of someone who always gets what they want. You have 1 week. Or we'll find a new principal who understands what Westfield stands for. Kesha found out 2 weeks later. She was in her classroom, preparing for her next lesson. She had sheet music spread across her desk. Classical pieces, jazz standards, gospel hymns, folk songs from different countries. She was creating a lesson about how all music is connected, like branches on the same tree. Miss Hayes. Principal Davis stood in the doorway. He wouldn't look at her face. Can we talk? Kesha's heart started beating fast. She knew that voice, that sad, guilty voice. They sat down. He still wouldn't look at her. The board has decided to make some budget cuts, he said. His words came out like he was reading from a script. Unfortunately, your position is being eliminated. Your last day will be Friday. The room spun. Kesha gripped her desk to stay steady. Budget cuts, she whispered. But you just hired 2 new administrators. You just built a new wing. The decision is final. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. This is because of Victoria Caldwell, isn't it? Kesha stood up. Her voice got louder. This is because I don't teach music the way she wants. This is because I'm black. That's not. But he couldn't finish the lie. His face told the truth. Look at me, Kesha said. Look at me and tell me this is really about money. He looked up. His eyes were wet. I'm sorry, he whispered. I have a family. I have a mortgage. They would have fired me too. Kesha laughed, but tears ran down her face. So you saved yourself and threw me away. How noble. She packed her things that day. Her hands shook as she put her sheet music in boxes. Her students cried when they heard she was leaving. Little Emma hugged her and wouldn't let go. Why are you leaving, Miss Hayes? Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, Kesha said, hugging her back. But you remember what I taught you, okay? Music belongs to everyone, not just people in fancy buildings. Everyone. The months after that were dark. Kesha tried to find another job, but somehow every school had heard she was difficult to work with. Every interview ended the same way. Polite smiles, empty promises. No job. Her savings ran out. She couldn't pay rent. She moved into her car, an old Honda that barely ran. Then she found out she was pregnant. Tyler's father was gone. He'd left when things got hard. She was alone. She should have been terrified. But when Tyler was born, when she held it for the first time, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. We'll be okay, she whispered to her tiny son. Somehow we'll be okay. But okay was hard to find. She sang on street corners for money. Sometimes people stopped to listen. Sometimes they threw coins. Sometimes they walked past like she was invisible. She and Tyler slept in the car. She fed him formula she bought with spare change. She kept him clean by washing his clothes in gas station bathrooms. She kept him warm by holding him close all night. And through it all, through the hunger and cold and fear, she sang to him. Lullabies, jazz standards, gospel songs, classical pieces, everything she'd taught her students, everything she loved. Tyler would look up at her with his big eyes and smile, like her voice was the most beautiful thing in the world. Then one day, she saw the poster. It was on a telephone pole, wet from rain, half torn, but she could read it. Metropolitan Cultural Center Annual Gala celebrating diversity in the arts, featuring performances from talented young artists. At the bottom, in small letters, organized by the Westfield Conservatory Board of Directors. Chair, Victoria Caldwell. Kesha stared at that poster for a long time, celebrating diversity. Talented young artists. Lies. All lies. They celebrated diversity as long as it stayed quiet and grateful. They celebrated talent as long as it looked like them, talked like them, came from their neighborhood. But what about her? What about the talented young artists they destroyed? The diversity they threw away like garbage? Something changed in Kesha that day. Something hardened. She looked down at Tyler, sleeping in her arms. I'm going to that gala, she told him. I'm going to walk right in there and show them what they threw away. I'm going to sing for 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes. And they're going to listen. Tyler yawned and grabbed her finger. Kesha smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of someone with nothing left to lose. They want to celebrate diversity? Fine. Let's give them real diversity. Let's give them truth. Back in the present. All these memories rushed through Kesha's mind in seconds. She stood on that stage, under those bright lights, looking at all those rich people in their expensive clothes. Victoria Caldwell stared back at her. For the first time, Victoria looked scared. Kesha took a deep breath. The piano player hit another note. And then, finally, Kesha began to sing. The first note came out soft, gentle, like a whisper. But even that whisper made people sit up straighter, made them lean forward, made them forget about their phones and their drinks and their important conversations. Kesha's eyes were closed. Her hands gripped the microphone stand, and she sang. She sang a spiritual, an old slave song about hope, about suffering, about surviving when the world wants you dead. Her voice started low, like distant thunder. Then it grew. It swelled. It filled every corner of that huge ballroom. It wasn't just beautiful. It was alive. You could hear pain in every note. Pain and joy and rage and love all mixed together. You could hear her sleeping in her car. You could hear her feeding her baby with money from strangers. You could hear her heart breaking and mending and breaking again. The rich people in their fancy clothes stopped breathing. At table 7, a woman started crying. She didn't know why. The tears just came. At table 12, a man took off his glasses to wipe his eyes. He was a banker who never cried. But he was crying now. Even the security guards stood still. Their hands hung at their sides. Their mouths were open. Kesha's voice rose higher. She hit notes that shouldn't be possible. Notes that made the crystal light shake. Notes that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her throat, from her soul. She sang about being invisible, about being thrown away, about loving your child when you have nothing else to give. The woman, holding baby Tyler, looked down at him. Tyler was staring toward the stage, his little mouth making an O shape. He wasn't crying. He was listening to his mother like he understood every word. The woman holding him started crying too. Her expensive makeup ran down her cheeks. She didn't care about her Chanel dress anymore. She held Tyler closer, like he was her own child. "Oh, God," she whispered. "What have we done?" Victoria Caldwell sat frozen in her seat. Her face had gone from red to white to gray. She watched Kesha sing, and with every note, something inside her cracked. She remembered the day she demanded Kesha be fired. She remembered calling her unprofessional, not the right fit, lowering standards. But those were just pretty words for ugly thoughts. She remembered her real reason. She remembered thinking, I don't want that black woman teaching my daughter. That's what it was really about. Not jazz or blues or teaching methods. Just hate. Just fear. Just wanted to keep the world looking the way she liked it. And now here was that same woman, singing a song so beautiful it made Victoria's heart hurt, singing with more talent in one note than Victoria had in her entire body. No, Victoria whispered to herself. No, no, no. But the song kept going. Kesha kept singing, and the truth kept spreading through that room like light through darkness. Maestro Richardson stood near the stage. His hands were shaking. He'd heard thousands of singers in his long career. Opera stars, Broadway legends, Grammy winners. But he'd never heard anything like this. This wasn't just singing. This was survival turned into sound. This was a woman who'd lost everything, but somehow found a way to turn her pain into something beautiful. He thought about the resume he'd thrown away 2 months ago. Kesha Hayes, it had said at the top. She applied to sing at one of his concerts. He'd seen her address, a P.O. box, and assumed she wasn't serious. Assumed she wasn't good enough. He'd never even listened to her demo. I'm a fool, he said out loud. I'm an old fool. Jonathan Mitchell, the music critic, sat at his table with tears streaming down his face. He was remembering the last time he'd heard Kesha sing, 3 years ago, when she was still teaching. She performed at a small showcase. Her voice had stunned him then. But this was different. This was a voice that had been broken and remade. This was a voice that had suffered and survived. He pulled out his phone. His fingers flew across the screen. If you care about real talent, real art, real courage, watch this. This is what we've been missing. This is what we've been throwing away. Her name is Kesha Hayes. Remember it. He hit send. The message went to every music producer, every talent scout, every journalist he knew. Within seconds, his phone buzzed with responses. Who is this? Where can I find her? Is she signed? I need her contact info now. Jonathan smiled through his tears. Here we go, he whispered. Before we continue with the ending, if you're loving Kesha's story, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss stories about courage, hope, and the power of truth. Now back to the finale. Kesha reached the end of her song. The last note hung in the air like a bird about to fly. Then silence. Complete, total silence. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Then someone started clapping. It was the woman holding Tyler. She stood up, holding the baby carefully, and she clapped. Tears ran down her face, but she smiled. Then another person stood and clapped. Then another. Then 10 more. Then 50. Then everyone. The entire ballroom rose to their feet. 200 rich people, many of them crying, clapped and clapped and clapped. The sound was like thunder. Kesha opened her eyes. For a moment, she looked confused, like she'd been somewhere far away and just came back. She saw the standing ovation. She saw the tears. She saw people who'd looked at her with disgust, now looking at her with wonder. And she smiled. A real smile. The first real smile she'd smiled in 2 years. Victoria Caldwell stood slowly. Her legs felt weak. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. But something made her walk toward the stage instead. The crowd got quiet, watching her. Victoria climbed the steps. She stood in front of Kesha. Up close, she could see how thin Kesha was. How tired. How young. God, she was so young. Victoria's voice broke. I'm sorry. Kesha stared at her, said nothing. I destroyed your life, Victoria continued. Her voice shook. I got you fired. I spread rumors. I made sure no one would hire you. And why? Because I was afraid. Because I'm a coward. Because I wanted the world to stay small and safe and white. She was crying now, ugly crying. Her makeup ran. Her perfect hair fell in her face. I'm sorry, she said again. I know that's not enough. I know I can't fix what I broke. But I'm sorry. And if you'll let me, I want to help. I want to make things right. Kesha looked at her for a long moment. Then she looked out at the audience. At Jonathan Mitchell. At Maestro Richardson. At the woman still holding Tyler. You can start, Kesha said slowly, by telling the truth. Tell everyone why you really got me fired. Tell them the real reason. No more lies about budgets or professional standards. Tell the truth. Victoria flinched, but then she nodded. She turned to face the crowd. She took the microphone with shaking hands. 2 years ago, she said, her voice barely working, I convinced the Westfield Conservatory to fire Miss Hayes. I told them she was unprofessional, but that was a lie. The room was so quiet you could hear hearts breaking. The truth is, I didn't want a black woman teaching my child. I didn't want my daughter learning that music comes from all people, not just people who look like me. I am a racist. Gasps filled the room. And I'm not the only one. Victoria looked at the other parents from Westfield. We all did this. We all agreed. We all signed a letter. And we destroyed a brilliant teacher because of the color of her skin. Several people in the audience looked down at their tables. Their faces were red with shame. Miss Hayes lost her job, her home. She's been living in her car with her infant son, and all because she dared to teach music the way it should be taught, with love and truth and diversity. Victoria turned back to Kesha. I can't undo what I did, but I can try to make it right. The conservatory will offer you your job back, with back pay, with a formal apology, and with complete freedom to teach however you want. I don't want my old job, Kesha said quietly. Victoria looked confused. But I want a new job, Kesha said, her voice stronger now. I want to create a music program, not just for rich kids, for all kids. Kids from the streets, kids from shelters, kids who've never touched an instrument but have music in their souls. She stepped closer to the microphone. I want funding, real funding. I want a building. I want instruments. I want to teach kids that music isn't about being perfect. It's about being human, about turning pain into beauty, about surviving. She looked out at the audience, at all those rich people with their guilty faces. You want diversity? You want inclusion? Then put your money where your mouth is. Help me build something real, something that actually changes lives. Jonathan Mitchell stood up. I'll donate $100,000 to start. The woman holding Tyler stood next. I'll donate $50,000, and I'll volunteer to help. Then others stood, one by one. 10,000 here, 20,000 there. Some pledged money, some pledged time, some pledged connections and resources. Maestro Richardson walked the stage. I'll teach with you, he said to Kesha, if you'll have an old fool like me. Kesha's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. The woman brought Tyler back to her. Kesha held her son close. He grabbed her face with his tiny hands and babbled happily. What will you call it? Someone asked. Your program? Kesha looked down at Tyler. She thought about all the nights singing to him in the car, all the times her voice was the only thing keeping them both from giving up. The Hope Project, she said, because that's what music is. Hope that tomorrow will be better. Hope that we can survive. Hope that our voices matter. She kissed Tyler's forehead. Hope that change is possible. 6 months later, the Hope Project opened in a renovated warehouse. It had 20 practice rooms, 50 instruments, and 100 students from all over the city. Kesha stood in the main room, teaching a class. Rich kids sat next to homeless kids, black kids next to white kids, kids who'd never held an instrument learning alongside kids who'd studied for years. And they were all making music together. Tyler, now 14 months old, sat in a playpen nearby. He clapped his little hands to the rhythm. Victoria Caldwell sat in the back, watching. She came every week to volunteer. It was her way of trying to fix what she'd broken. She knew she could never fully make up for what she'd done, but she could try. Jonathan Mitchell's article about Kesha had gone viral. She'd been interviewed on TV, offered recording contracts, asked to perform at major venues. But she always came back here, to these kids, to this music, because this was real. This was hope. Okay, everyone, Kesha said, smiling at her students. Let's try it again. And remember, there's no wrong way to make music. There's only your way. So be brave, be honest, be you. The kids played. Some notes were perfect. Some notes were terrible. But together, they made something beautiful. Just like life. Just like hope. Just like Kesha Hayes, the woman who lost everything but found a way to turn her pain into something that changed the world. If this story touched your heart, please share with someone who needs inspiration today, and subscribe for more powerful stories about courage, redemption, and the strength of the human spirit. Leave a comment below telling us what part made you cry. We read every single one.